Greetings. This briefing, dedicated to uncovering lies from the mouths of Russian state propaganda, is forced to begin with the statements that Russian President Putin allowed himself during his annual address to Russian lawmakers. The text of this message is filled with historical untruths, manipulations and frankly propagandistic emotions, starting with the fact that Russia is not at war with the people of Ukraine, but the people of Ukraine themselves have become hostages of the Kiev regime. Putin allowed himself such a statement, and this is, of course, untrue, because it was Russia that attacked Ukraine, and the Ukrainian legitimate authorities consolidated all efforts to restrain the enemy and knock them out of the territories they occupied. Putin's other statements during his address are also untrue. In particular, the special operation was launched to protect Russia and eliminate the Nazi threat. Russian propagandist Solovyev quoted Putin as saying, "This is not true. Ukraine has never for a single day posed any threat to Russia within the legitimate borders of 1991. Russia will solve the tasks facing it step by step," Putin also stated in his address, which indicates the complete fiasco of the military campaign launched by him. After all, earlier there were claims about the occupation of Ukraine for 3 days and the successful development of events on the battlefield, while the war has been going on for a whole year, and all the efforts made by the Russian authorities have not brought the desired result. Putin said that he remembers Ukraine's desire to get nuclear weapons. Solovyev also quotes Putin. This is also a lie. Ukraine has never tried to rebuild its nuclear arsenal. Moreover, as part of giving up nuclear weapons, Ukraine received security guarantees from Russia, which were violated. Moreover, as part of nuclear disarmament, Ukraine, compensating for gas debts, gave Russia missiles, which Russia itself is now directing against Ukraine. Also, Putin once again lied about the so-called biolaboratories that the USA deployed at our borders. There is no confirmation of this status, and the entire information campaign around the construction of so-called biolaboratories is intended only to justify Russia's military aggression against Ukraine. In general, in his address, Putin repeated the thesis, which is actively used by Russian full-time propagandists, that apparently Ukraine has no right to exist within its borders. The Ukraine project began to grow back in the 19th century, back in Austria-Hungary, in order to tear away historical lands from Russia, Putin said. His words echo the telegram channels of Russian propagandists, which also question the possibility of Ukraine's existence as an independent state. I quote them: "When Ukrainians try to imitate their overseas masters, they have no choice. People who come from a non-existent artificial state are not capable of original thinking. They do not have even a minimal culture," says the Russian telegram channel Kremlevskaya Prachka, which is one of the key mouthpieces of Moscow's propaganda. With such statements, Russian propaganda and the Russian leader confirm what Ukraine has been claiming for a year now on all international platforms. This war is being waged as a genocide against the Ukrainian people, whose right to exist has been questioned at the highest Russian political level. Well, speaking of how Russian propaganda has spread its sails in recent days, we can mention now, for example, how they once again falsely twisted one of the decisions of the Ukrainian authorities to assign the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade the name Edelweiss. They tried to compare this name with the name of one of the divisions of the German army during the World War II, and this is a manipulation, because the corresponding military units with the name Edelweiss existed even before the First World War in the ranks of the Austro-Hungarian army. In Russia itself, units of the Russian Guard had the name Edelweiss. That is, these parallels drawn by Russian propagandists are simply lies, in order to accuse Ukraine of what Russia itself is doing. Russia is committing genocide against Ukraine and using fascist tactics in both the information and military spheres. The efforts of Russian propaganda to look for signs of, think about it, Satanism in the actions of the Ukrainian military is also ridiculous. An entire story published by Russian propaganda resources, particularly Maxim Grigoriev, Satanism in the armed forces of Ukraine. What evidence of Satanism is found in the liberated territories? What is the connection between the fascination with Satanism and neo-paganism in Ukraine? Are they looking for an opportunity to accuse Ukraine of non-existent crimes in order to justify their own criminal actions against Ukraine? Well, in conclusion, I will mention one more, not even a manipulation, but an absolutely lying, but at the same time funny fake, which was published by the Russian propagandist Solovyev. It interprets a video on the social network TikTok, which is regularly published by one user. This user films his grandfather, the so-called grandfather Toля, who is known on Ukrainian TikTok, and asks him various questions. And this time he made a joke about his grandfather, asking him about a possible draft to the armed forces of Ukraine, while Solovyov publishes this video in a seriousness as proof of what, I'm quoting Solovyov, that in the Kharkiv region, the military commissariat sent fighters to serve as summon to a pensioner who is 85 years old. This is a fake, and the video that Solovyov posts are just a joke on the TikTok social network. This once again proves that the Russian media environment does not even understand Ukrainian realities. At this point, I conclude my briefing with a traditional appeal not to trust Russian social networks, but to trust exclusively Ukrainian official mass media, Ukrainian political authorities, Ukrainian military authorities, the armed forces of Ukraine. See you soon.